You two over there too.
Harry.
All right. Mr. Thompson, you too. All right, recognition of guests and staff. I saw Commissioner Pownell, and I don't know if Carmichael is still. All right, the approval of the minutes from the May 21st, 2014 meeting. You received a copy of those. Anybody note any errors or omissions? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Have a motion by Mr. Underwood, a second by Mayor Debbie. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous. Next item is the approval of financial statement. You received a copy of that. Anybody have any questions or note any errors? I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Have a motion by Chairman Austin. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Underwood. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Mr. Swafford, review of the FY14 budget versus actual expenditures.
Get this pulled up over here.
While Blake's getting the technology set up, I'll skip down to Mr. Shipp and ask about the report from the West Georgia Joint Development Authority.
Really nothing to report. The joint authority is not taking on any project for the summer, so it'll be the fall before we go forward.
All right. Ms. Wright is excused today, so no report from the chamber. Is Jamie Gilbert still here? There he is. Jamie, if you come up to the lectern, you want to give a report on Paulding Economic Development Organization.
Absolutely. I want to give you just a quick update on some of the projects we're currently working on. The first one is, there are two projects involved in this one. There's Project DW and Project Kent. These are two companies in the Hiram area. One is a manufacturer, the other is a service company. The key issue for this project is retention of these companies at their current location by being able to provide sewer service to their facilities. We have applied for an Economic Development Administration grant. The cost of the sewer line is $127,000. The grant that we've applied for would cover 80% of that cost. Combined, both companies have currently 77 employees, and they would create 24 new jobs, putting total employment of 101 individuals. The line, which will be in the Sunnyland Industrial Park area, would also be available to about 18 other businesses if they so choose to connect to sewer and get off of the septic system. So it's a good project. We will know if we have been awarded that grant probably sometime in September. The next project, which is also in the Hiram area, is a manufacturer. This project is called Project Suite. They also need sewer to their building to be able to add on to the facility and add more employees. We're going to be applying for an EDA grant for them as well. That application will be in September or October of this year. Combined, right now they have 90 existing employees. With the expansion, they would bring in 40 new employees, and they would be up to 130, making them one of the largest manufacturers in the county. The third project that's active right now is a project called Project Abbey, which is a memory care facility looking at a location within a mile of the Wellstar Paulding Hospital. We are close to finalizing that project. That is actually in the Dallas city limits. That would create about 40 new jobs, and it's about a $4.5 million investment. And then finally, we're working to support Propeller Investments on one of their MRO projects that they're actively working on. That project is called Project Clipper, And so we provided some support services on the incentive side and giving them the information they needed for the presentation to the company. And if that were to come to fruition, that could be about 100 jobs. So those projects are the most active ones right now. We have others that we're developing. We are also working now to resubmit our application for the Paulding County City of Hiram Opportunity Zone. They have now started at the Georgia Department of Community Affairs to review the applications and make approvals once again. We have been instructed that the requirements to receive designation are going to be much more restrictive than what we had when we applied for the Dallas Opportunity Zone 2 years ago, 3 years ago now. So we're having to reevaluate what properties will actually be submitted, and we've come up with a very, we really have cut back the number of properties that will be in there for what we think will qualify. And then finally, we are putting together plans for the Paulding Aerospace Alliance to exhibit at NBAA, which is National Business Aviation Association's annual conference. That's going to be in October, and so we will be taking the Paulding Aerospace Alliance booth to the show, promoting our existing aerospace companies and trying to recruit additional aerospace companies to Paulding County. So that's what we have today.
Thank you. Anybody on the board got any questions for Jamie? A lot of good stuff. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move back up to item A and the review of the FY14 budget versus actual expenditures by Wells Fargo.
Stand over here so folks can hear me better. Same thing, same format as what we had with the Airport Authority budget. Again, it's the FY14 fiscal year overview. Runs from July 2013 through June 2014. Again, the first column is what was actually spent, second column is what was budgeted, then you have the amount over or under budget and percent of budget. Again, I've got items highlighted in red or blue. Those are the only ones I'm going to hit on. Pretty much everything else was close to budget or kind of irrelevant. The first thing with the income is you'll see we were about $16,000 low on terminal rent. That is as a result of Silver Comet not being able to start utilizing the space downstairs. So we're not able to charge rent on that space until they are able to start utilizing it. So rents were $16,000 less than what we had projected. Under expenses, you drop all the way down about midway through the first page, and you'll see legal expenses. They're about 50% over budget. That's not Tom's fault. I think everybody's aware of the issues with our legal expenses and the lawsuits that we've had, so not much really needs to be said on that. Drop down below that to program project expenses. We were well under budget on program project expenses and also well under budget on property development expenses. We really didn't do any property development in the last fiscal year. We finished up with, of course, the infrastructure in Paulding Commerce Park, which was funded by the bond, so that wasn't out of our general fund. We didn't really do any new development at all in the Dallas Industrial Park. The expenses that we did incur there have to do with the addition of the 10 acres to the Dallas Industrial Park. Had to have some surveying done and some other things done to expand the Dallas Industrial Park. So that's pretty much what that's associated with.
That
Drop down.
expansion was a result of a land swap.
Correct.
Other property we own for the acreage.
That's correct. The old Mill Road
So there
property.
was no expense on land acquisition.
No acquisition cost, exactly. Dropping down to the bottom of the page, you've got repairs. Building repairs and equipment repairs were way under budget. Lawn and landscaping is a little over budget. As all of you know, we're maintaining the lawns at the film studio, the Paulding Commerce Park, as well as the Dallas Industrial Park. So we do have a good bit of landscaping and lawn maintenance going on at this point in time. Flipping to the second page. Second page, toward the top, travel and entertainment. Again, we didn't do any conferences this year, so this past fiscal year, so there were a lot of savings on conferences and travels and meals due to the fact that we didn't travel to any conferences this past year. The line item that you see in red there, the entertainment, that was associated with the air show. We did do a couple of president's tables at the air show, and we did invite some of our prospects and some of our recent projects that we had done to attend the air show in the president's tent. So that is what that dollar figure is. Drop to the bottom, you can see we were $39,000 under budget. Again, that's primarily due to the savings that we had in not doing any actual land development in the last fiscal year budget. So if anybody's got any questions on any specific line items or want more detail, I'd be glad to go into it in more detail.
All right.
Thank you.
Film studio report.
You have the hold report in your backup documentation on the film studio. The recent show has wrapped up, and they have moved out of the facility. I guess we are at this point in time able to talk in a little more detail about that show. That was a show that was called Fake Out. It's going to be on True TV. That will be broadcasting this fall. Everybody seems to be very, very excited about the show. It turned out extremely well. The directors and producers of the show loved the facility, and they've actually given us some written comments, some written feedback on the facility that we're now using for some of our marketing material. But the show went off without any problems at all. I think a couple of you actually stopped by and saw some of the filming and production going on with that show. In the hold report, we do have 5 holds for this fall. So the first of those starting in mid-August. So we should be hearing some feedback in the next couple of weeks on that show, as well as the shows that have holds in September and October. So look forward to some more activity in the facility very soon.
Any questions on the film studio? Alden Commerce Park update.
Paulding Commerce Park, we are in the process of getting that park certified with the state. Georgia Department of Economic Development as a GRAD site. Jamie, what does GRAD stand for? Do you know?
Guaranteed ready for accelerated development.
There you go. Yeah, Jamie would know. There are a number of sites throughout the state that are certified as GRAD sites through Georgia Department of Economic Development. Basically what that means is when they have a project come in that has to be fast-tracked, that has to be guaranteed fast-tracked, the first thing they will do is look at those GRAD sites, because what it means to be a GRAD site is it means that basically the engineering's done, the permitting's done, you have all of your geotechnical reports, all of your ecological reports, you have everything done. There are about 3 pages worth of requirements that you have to meet in order to be a GRAD site, listed as a GRAD site with Georgia Department of Economic Development. So we have hired ECS to come in and do the geotechnical work, as well as the ecological, endangered species, archaeological, to get everything done for us to be able to list that as a GRAD site. So all of that is in the process. We've gotten some preliminary reports back and waiting on the final reports so we can get all that submitted to the state. So it'll be our first GRAD site in Paulding County, and one of the very few in this region of the state. So it'll be a big feather in our cap to have that done. Anybody's got any questions on the rest of it?
Update on the Dallas Industrial Park.
Dallas Industrial Park, the main activity that's going on in the Dallas Industrial Park right now is the construction of the sheriff's facility on the back portion of the property. They are getting near completion of all of their site work. They've had to reroute some sewer lines and things like that, which will affect us, but it won't affect us until we get ready to put a project on the property. Working very, very closely with Chuck Rand and Michael Carter with the county to make sure that all those pieces fit together in the event that we have a project that comes in that needs it in the near future. The lift station is ready to be turned on. We had one small hiccup with Georgia Power on the lift station. The transformer that was installed by Georgia Power ended up being the wrong size, and I cannot tell you how that happened, but they are having to change out the transformer before we can actually start the lift station in operation. So that transformer's been ordered and should be installed in the next couple of weeks, and that lift station will be live and online at that point. So it's taking a little longer to get it up and running than what I would have liked, but obviously we don't have anything to do with transformer installation. That's done by others. Any questions on House Industrial Park?
All right, next item is approval section. The first one, I think, would be more correctly stated as adopt public meeting decorum policy, since we're not changing public participation. This is the same policy that was adopted by the airport authority. Does any member of the board wish to have it read then? If not, I'll entertain a motion on the adoption of the policy.
I make a motion.
We have a motion by Mayor Debbie. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Shipp. Any discussion? All those in favor? Passes unanimously. The next item is to discuss requested changes to cost of the environmental assessment for the Airport Parkway Road Extension Project. Ms. Helms had asked to speak, and I had given the okay for that due to late date. You want to go ahead and talk now?
Yeah,
Kathy?
yeah, that's fine. I'm good. Hello again. Thank you again for letting me have this opportunity. I want to talk about money. You know, I'm a numbers person, I'm a bookkeeper by trade, and the costs of this environmental assessment, and I know that there's been discussion about the LPA group doing it. I have an open records request where I asked for the cost of the airport. And in 2006, which is as far back as Tabitha had the information
Ms.
about.
Helms, I apologize, I don't want to interrupt you, but this environmental assessment is for the roadway project. It's being done by the Paulding County Department of Transportation. Doesn't have anything to do with the LPA group or Michael Baker.
Okay, well then, I guess I would ask that maybe you be a little bit more clear on these agenda items when you're asking us to talk about agenda items, and then the agenda doesn't come out till Monday, and the deadline is on Friday, and on the agenda, I see an environmental assessment for the airport roadway extension project, but I don't know what that involves. Okay, an environmental
And
assessment.
I will insert here that the reason why it was delayed is that Jeannie was on vacation last week, and it was a clerical
Well, the same thing
problem
happened in
schedule.
May. We didn't get them till Monday in May
Okay.
either, so,
Well, we-
you know,
we tried.
and I understand, I understand, but it makes it difficult for me, you know, I just want to then just basically say we paid the LPA group over $5 million at this airport. So I just hope that what we get done, and it's done well. So, thank you.
All right, we'll move back to item B, is the changes of the cost of the environmental assessment for the Airport Parkway Road Extension Project. Blake.
Yeah, I guess I will back up and give some history, since all of the board members are aware and know what this agenda item is, but the public may or may not. Several years ago, we received a federal grant for the extension of the Airport Parkway, which is, of course, the road that comes into the airport. The extension of the Airport Parkway about a half mile to the east, in order to get access to what will eventually be the Airport Technology Park, an industrial park for the Industrial Building Authority. That project, as it was a federal grant and came through the Federal Highway Administration, was administered to the county, which was, of course, managed by Paulding County Department of Transportation. Paulding County Department of Transportation has been working on this project for, I guess, probably 4 years now. It has gone through a number of iterations, which really don't have much to do with us, but have to do with changes that were made either through the Federal Highway Administration or changes through Georgia Department of Transportation, or changes in the environmental assessment process. So their consultant is a firm called RS&H. RS&H, of course, has nothing to do with Michael Baker or LPA. RS&H is a separate firm, and that is the company that's doing the environmental assessment for their roadway project. Through these changes that have come through Federal Highway, Georgia DOT, and the environmental assessment process, some of which we've talked about before, for example, the Indiana bat, the gray bat, and some of those other
And the dingbat.
Exactly. Have basically drug the environmental assessment out and have increased the cost of the environmental assessment. So what you have in your backup documentation is you have a document from the Paulding County Department of Transportation that has in here two funding requests. The first funding request is for an amount of $58,900, and that is to complete the draft environmental assessment document for the roadway extension. The second page is an additional request for an additional $93,154 to complete the overall environmental assessment document. So, in other words, they will have to complete a draft. That draft will be submitted to Federal Highway Administration and Georgia DOT. They will get comments and corrections and things back. Then they will have to address all of those and then finalize the document for final approval. So they've broken this into two pieces and into two funding chunks for that. As I said at the beginning, this roadway extension is being funded by a federal grant. We were able to go through the Appalachian Regional Commission several years ago and obtain the grant for the roadway extension because it is an economic development project. It's not a highway capacity project, it's an economic development project. It's opening up the development of the Airport Technology Park. So that grant did have some funding in it for the environmental assessment and for the design. However, we've exceeded those dollar amounts. So at this time, County DOT is requesting if the IBA is able to fund those. If the IBA is not able to fund those or is not agreeable to funding those, then there is an alternative that they can go back to Federal Highway and Georgia DOT and ask for an exception on the dollars in that grant because of the fact that basically the rules have changed during the process of this EA. So because the rules have changed and we're having to look for bats and other things that were not originally accounted for or anticipated, there is some chance that Federal Highway and Georgia DOT will agree to allow additional funding out of the grant to be used to cover these costs. So we really have a couple of different things at issue, whether or not the IBA can or would want to fund it, whether we'd rather have them ask for the money to come out of the grant. And then, of course, there's also the issue of until the county budget is approved, we don't know what funding is available to the Industrial Building Authority for the IBA's budget. So,
Have they made any inroads with the state yet on requesting additional funding?
not yet. They came to us first.
My idea is that it would be probably more prudent for them to go back to the state and ask for the changes. Since this, earlier I said they funded that mandate, this is an unfunded mandate for the change in scope. I would suggest they go back and ask if they can use part of the grant for that and then report back to us, and that way we'll know funding levels and everything else that would occur. Anybody have any other further comments or discussion on that issue?
I just found it, when I reviewed this originally, the dates of some of this, and why is it just coming to light now?
A lot of it is the time frame. Every transportation project in Georgia, particularly in North Georgia, has been held up for years, primarily because of the Indiana bat issue. Even though nobody's ever seen one, can tell you if one's been here, if there's any indication that there's some trees that it evidently likes to live in that grow here. And so it has put everything on hold, and everybody's had to go back and start over, primarily on the Indiana bat, but other things that have been brought to light as well.
They finished that assessment in Hiram last year and found no bat.
And I will also say that Federal Highway has brought up the issue of the changes in the airport, the change of potential use in the airport, and have asked that, that the consultant, the DOT's consultant, RS&H, look at whether or not that change would have an impact on the road. Now, we all know that's a silly question because the road is from our entrance that way into an industrial park, and it's a dead end, so there's no way that any traffic here would affect that, but that's a federal highway issue, and they've asked for it, so it has to be looked at.
All right. So we'll ask them to go back. We have a need for an executive session to discuss litigation. Is there a motion to go into executive session for those purposes?
I make a motion.
Have a motion by Mayor Debbie. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Shipp. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous. We will be back shortly.